I think the reason that people are so infatuated by the concept of a one watch collection watch is because of the versatility. It can be worn anywhere with anything, and that is very attractive to us as watch enthusiasts. And that's why today I'm going to be covering my top 12 one watch collection watches. Welcome back to the Chisholm Hunter channel. My name is Harrison, as always. And before we start this video, if you do enjoy these videos, then please consider hitting that subscribe button. It helps us more than you could possibly know, and I really appreciate it. Let's crack straight into number one, and let's start talking about the Tudor Pelagos 39mm, a watch that can be worn anywhere with anything and has the functionality to cover all areas of life. The Tudor Pelagos comes in at 39mm in diameter, which is that unicorn size. It's that size that everybody kind of wants. It's not too big, it's not too bulky, it's not too small. It kind of is the perfect size, especially for us watch enthusiasts that are consistently kind of getting smaller in our tastes. It comes in at 11.8mm in thickness, which is pretty damn thin considering it goes to 200 meters of waterproofness. It has a lug width of 21mm, and the whole case and bracelet comes in grade 2 titanium. Now, grade 2 titanium has more of a dull hue to it. It's a little bit darker of a metal than stainless steel. And I think that's partially why this watch would appeal as, firstly, a sports watch, but secondly, a more business-orientated watch. It doesn't scream too loud, but it still oozes class and oozes sophistication. It's nice. The black dial on this model makes it a very clean watch, a very kind of monochromatic watch, and I think that's kind of what you want from your one watch collection. You want it to suit every attire you can pair it with. Plus, you want the functionality to be there, and the functionality in this watch is there. Let's talk about the movement. The movement is the Caliber MT5400, which is a self-winding mechanical movement with a bidirectional rotor system. It has a power reserve of 70 hours and it is COSC certified. So it has been put through those tests that you want your watch movement to go through to test for reliability, ruggedness, and all that kind of stuff. This is a reliable, functional, classy watch, making it a one watch collection watch. The price of the Pelagos 39 comes in at £4,040, so it ain't cheap. But for what you get, Tudor are at the top of their game, especially when it comes to METAS and COSC movements, for example, in the Black Bay Monochrome, but we'll get onto the Black Bay Monochrome in a bit. The second watch we're going to talk about is the Aquaterra Black Lacquer Dial. Now, there was 3 of these watches released this year in 2024. Firstly, you have the 34mm variant. Secondly, you have the 38mm variant. And thirdly, and finally, you have the 41mm variant. Now, personally, what I would recommend is to try them all on and see which one fits your wrist. But for me, the 38mm was just banging. It was unreal. So let's talk about that one. The 38mm Aquaterra, as you would expect, comes in, at 38mm. That size is just damn perfect. It comes in at 45.1mm lug to lug, and the thickness comes in at 12.3mm. It comes in full stainless steel, and it is predominantly polished stainless steel. I would say this watch is one of the more heavily leaning to the dressy side, but there are sporty flares in it. There's sportiness picked up from the Aquaterra line that make it kind of versatile. It has a date window at the 6 o'clock mark, making this watch perfectly symmetrical, and it also has that beautiful black lacquer dial. I feel like the more boring watches get, the more everlasting they are, the more time doesn't ravage them. It kind of makes them, there's a word for it, I can't remember the word, but it makes them live forever. To top that off, the movement in this watch is the Caliber 8800 COSC and METAS certified movement with 55 hours of power. And it's also resistant to 150 meters of water resistance. So there you have the ruggedness and toughness of, a functional watch that you can use in a sporty setting. And that makes this watch, you guys will know what I'm going to say right now, so I just won't even say it. And just for the record, before I forget, this watch comes in at £6,200. Before I go any further, guys, let's see what you guys said on the Chisholm Hunter Watches Instagram page, because I did put up a story a couple of minutes ago. So, Watch Data says IWC Mark Series. You're absolutely correct, and we're moving on to that literally for the next watch. Momolication says Rolex Explorer 1. I would agree, but it's not on this list for a couple of reasons. I'll get to that later. Watch Data says Grand Seiko Shanban, and I would disagree there, actually. I think that definitely leans more to the dressy category, and it kind of restricts it in terms of its versatility. Zit Gist _ says Omega Seamaster black and white. I love the Seamaster. The Seamaster is king, but let's not lie, it does lean more towards the sporty side, especially with that big helium escape valve. Tom-21071976 says 5711, which is the 5711 Patek Philippe Nautilus. I would agree, but it's not made this list because the Patek Philippe Nautilus is really expensive. Plus, that watch has actually been discontinued. And the next watch actually is, it's funny how you guys guessed this, but it is the IWC Mark Collection, if you want to call it that. But specifically, I drilled it down to the Mark XX or Mark 20. This watch comes in at 40 millimeters. Again, it hits that I've said this like 3 times now, but it hits that unicorn size that everybody kind of knows and wants and suits both aesthetics. I feel like as soon as the watch goes above 42, it's a sports watch. As soon as it goes below 37, it's vintage. In between there, you've got versatility. It also comes in at 10.8 millimeters in thickness, so it's beautifully thin. The movement in this watch is the 32111 caliber, which is an IWC manufactured movement, beating at 28,800 VPH. It has 163 components and 120 hours of power. This is a very simplistic watch. I mean, the whole collection, the Mark collection, was originally designed for pilots. It's kind of heavily inspired by the big pilot. But that makes it so simplistic that it suits any occasion. It's not too dressy, but it's also not too sporty. The Mark 20 comes in at £5,050. Now that is if you were to get the leather strap and black dial, but I know that there's a couple of different variations there. The next watch we're going to talk about, and I know that you guys are going to kill me because it's such a boring watch YouTuber watch to talk about. It's the Rolex Submariner. We're not going to spend too much time on this watch. The industry today, the watch industry, is still dominated by Rolex. It is the biggest seller. They produce about 1.2 million watches a year. And I would take an educated guess that the Rolex Submariner is one of the best sellers because it's so clean. It's so classic. Rolex do it right. And the amount of people I see in a suit and tie with a Rolex Submariner, whether that's just a statement that they want to have a Rolex as a class thing, or they actually are watch enthusiasts, it's not up for me to say. But a lot of them do wear the Rolex Submariner. And because Rolexes are brilliant, they also have the functionality attached to them, making it, versatile. So I won't spend too much time on that one, but the Rolex Sub is in there. The next watch I was going to choose, but I switched my opinion, was the TAG Heuer Aquaracer 300. The new models that are COSC certified, because I love where TAG Heuer are going. But instead, I've opted for the TAG Heuer Professional 200 date. I think the sizes make it that little bit more versatile, plus the stainless steel bezel it injects it again with a little bit of dressy vibes. So that's the watch we're talking about. This watch comes in at 40 millimeters in diameter, and don't make me say it. Don't make me say it. It's the unicorn size. It also comes in at 11.54 millimeters in thickness. It's water resistant to 200 meters, has a full stainless steel case and body, and it also has that stainless steel bezel, which, as I've said in tons of other videos, are the goal. It also has that teak dial pattern, which gives it a beautiful kind of deep vibe. There's lots of depth to that dial, and it also has a 6 o'clock date window. It has all the functionality you need for sports occasions, but most people wear this, again, with a suit and tie to the office. Don't make me say it. It's a one-watch collection. Oh yeah, and also, before I forget, it comes in at £2,600. On that note, guys, I heard that Chisholm Hunter is a really good place to get your one-watch collection watches. Authorized dealers and all that. Next up, we're taking a step down in price. We're kind of coming down to reality a little bit, and we're talking about the Tissot Gentleman. Now, the Tissot Gentleman was kind of overshadowed by the Tissot PRX because the PRX was such a huge explosion. But very rarely do I see people using their PRXs out with the office, shall we say. I feel like the Tissot Gentleman flew below the radar, but it's kind of worn in more scenarios. So let's talk about that one. It comes in at 40 millimeters in diameter, 11.5 millimeters in thickness, and 40 millimeters in length. It's water resistant to 100 meters, comes in 316L stainless steel, and of course has that Powermatic 80 movement. There's tons of variations that you could choose between of this watch, and they all come in around about the £800 mark. I don't want to dwell too much on this one because everybody knows of the Tissot Gentleman, but it's a great all-rounder. Okay, guys, I want you to not freak out when I say this. This is the next watch we're going to talk about. And it's a Garmin. And I'm sorry for saying that. But here's the thing. I have friends that only wear digital watches. And I feel like I have this huge vendetta against Apple Watches because it's an extension of your phone. You know, I spend way too much time on my phone as it is at the moment. So the fact that it would be an extension of your phone that you carry around on your wrist, making you kind of a cyborg, I don't like that. What I do like, however, is health, is bettering yourself. And that, I think, is where Garmin comes into it. This is the Garmin Mark Q Athlete Gen 2, a watch that I actually own, but to be fair, we could just talk about Garmin in general here. To generalize, Garmin focuses on fitness, and I think that that's something that I could get behind. I don't agree with an extension of your mobile phone on your wrist, but when it comes to tracking your sleep, tracking your health, tracking your workouts, I get it, and I would use it. Actually, I have a Garmin, this specific Garmin, but if you're gonna get a Garmin, and you don't want to go down the mechanical route, and I know a lot of people like that, then I think this is the brand for you, making it their one watch collection. Maybe not the enthusiast one watch collection because we are a bit more nerdy, but the kind of muggles. Next up, we have the Seiko Shogurai. Again, it's a step down in price. Now, there are 3 variations of this watch you can choose between. The burgundy, that's definitely not your all-rounder. You then have this beautiful black dial with tanned beigey hands. We filmed that one in the studio, so for reference, I'll show you that one, but that's not the one I would go for. I would go for the third, the one with the black dial, the bracelet, and beautiful white hour markers. The Shogurai kind of takes the best of the Seiko Samurai and the best of the Shogun, and kind of like merged it together to make this kind of weird but brilliant baby. And I like it. These watches come in at 41.7 millimeters and 12.3 millimeters in thickness. The case length, or the lug to lug, you would say, comes in at 49.5 millimeters. And of course, these are in full stainless steel. Now, I was actually contemplating not putting this in the list because of the size of it. It is quite bulky. But people with Seikos tend to be a little bit more active. They tend to want that ruggedness and that toughness. But then it has a bracelet, so that makes it, you know, more dressy. This watch comes in at £560, so it's definitely at the lower end. Actually, it might be one of the cheapest watches we'll talk about within this video. The next watch we're going to talk about is the Black Bay Monochrome, the Tudor Black Bay Monochrome that was released this year in 2024 at Watches and Wonders. And this watch, when you look at it at a glance, is rather boring, but that makes it brilliant. That makes it last a lifetime. That makes it timeless. That's the word I was looking for. Now, there are 3 variations of this watch to choose between. You have this kind of beautiful black rubber strap. That's the one that I would personally go for, but that leans it more to the sporty side, so I don't think that's the one watch collection you're after. I would go for the more oyster vibe of a bracelet for the one watch collection, but then you do have this kind of rice grainy looking bracelet as well, which is really, really nice. But the oyster, for me, that's where I would go for a one watch collection. This watch comes in at 41 millimeters and 13.6 millimeters in thickness, making it that little bit thicker. But the thickness comes with added functionality and testing. And that is what we're going to talk about now. Because for this price, epic. It has the caliber MT5602-U, the U meaning it's METAS certified, and it has 70 hours of power. To get a watch at £3,910 that's COSC and METAS certified, that can suit any occasion and is timeless, wild. Next up, we have the Conquest 38, the Longines Conquest 38. And yes, I know they are the banging brand that produce banger after banger, but the Conquest it's just so good. I would honestly say that it's like an affordable Rolex Datejust or an affordable Aquaterra. They come in 2 different sizes. You get 38 millimeters and 41 millimeters. Now, because the dial doesn't really have very much of a bezel or a bezel area, it makes it look a little bit bigger, thus making it wear a little bit bigger on the wrist. So I would probably go for the 38 mil because it wears a little bit more like a 39 mil. They come in multiple different colors. There's tons of variations to choose between. And the lug to lug in the 38 mil comes in at 46.8 millimeters and it comes in at 10.9 millimeters in thickness. It's water resistant to 100 meters and it comes in full stainless steel. And this thing oozes class. To top that off, it comes in at £2,000. And I think Longines are at the top of their game when offering more affordable watches with a premium package with what they can do. The next watch we're going to talk about is one of the most expensive watches that we're going to talk about in this video. It's the IWC Ingenieur. And this was released a couple of years ago and it made a huge bang because of Genta and inspiration in 70s. And it hit the right trajectory and now it's one of their best sellers. With that said, I feel like the Ingenieur, despite being more sporty, because of the price of it, wouldn't be used in a sporty setting. I mean, if you're spending £10,500 on a watch, which is what this watch costs, you're probably not going to take it up in Monroe in fear of getting it scratched. But it can do it. And actually, I've worn this out on hikes. It was a sample piece, but I did wear it out on hikes. This watch comes in at 40 millimeters in diameter, 10.7 millimeters in height, so it's beautifully thin, and the water resistance comes in at 100 meters. The movement on this model is hidden beneath the closed case back, but it is the caliber 32111 movement, which, if you'll remember, is actually the same movement as the Mark 20. It has 120 hours of power and 163 components. The dials on the Ingenieur models, the dials are just stunning. They are a work of art. The Ingenieur models in general actually are a work of art. And I made a whole video on how I don't think these are overpriced and everybody else seems to disagree with me, but I still stick to my guns there. I don't think these are overpriced. Next on the list is a watch that I talk about far too much. You guys are going to kill me, but it's what is it that Thanos says when he's going to click his fingers? He's like, I'm inevitable. This watch is inevitable. This watch is the Longines Hydra Conquest GMT. It looks like a Submariner, it's functional, it has added complications, and also it's a fraction of the price, coming in at £2,750. This watch comes in at 41 millimeters in case diameter, 12.9 millimeters in thickness, and 49.4 millimeters lug to lug. It has the caliber L844 movement, which is COSC certified, beats at 25,200 VPH, and has 72 hours of power. And you can't deny that when looking at this watch, you like it. And that is all from me today. I really hope you enjoyed this little snippet of One Watch Collection watches. If you did, please consider hitting that subscribe button, or follow us on Instagram at Chisholm Hunter Watches, or my Instagram at HB Lifelines, or our podcast at Into the Mind Podcast. And I'll see you guys real soon.